This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What's up, crowdfunders? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. How are you doing? Hope you're having a great, productive week. You're getting lots of stuff done, gearing up for the launch of your Kickstarter campaign, or if you're already in the middle, that's awesome too. Man, it's always an experience running a new campaign. It's excitement. It's a little bit of uncertainty. It's a bit of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do when you hit that Kickstarter slump. So it's a lot of exciting emotions, but I kind of want to be here for you, not only as a podcaster, a coach, an educator, really as someone who's sharing stories of other people that are successfully launching campaigns. That's what we do on this show is we get into and we dive into the strategies that are working right now on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, different crowdfunding websites, and I bring that information to you, but I also want you to see the way that other people are going out there, the values that they have as they're raising money from the crowd, because I think the mindset is really an important part of crowdfunding. I know it's not something, you want to hear your first time around. The first time it's more like, what are the strategies? What are the tactics? What are the tips to get traffic, to raise more money, etc.? But you'll see with this interview, they've raised in 9 successful Kickstarter campaigns, the values that they have, the way that they put their community first. You'll hear a lot about that on today's show, so that I hope that you enjoy it. If you haven't yet, take a second to subscribe to this podcast in iTunes. We're also available on Stitcher, on Spotify, on my website, on YouTube. So there are a lot of places where you can consume this show. I always appreciate a rating and a review. That just means the world to me. It means that what I'm doing is helpful for you. I also get a bit of feedback that way. And finally, for those of you in the community that are interested in following my other content, so I don't just have a podcast, I also have an online forum. I put out regularly blog posts that I've written, YouTube videos, training content, exclusive web classes. If you want access to all of that for free, all you got to do is sign up for my weekly newsletter. Now, I know newsletter is kind of like a boring thing, but I really do share very well thought out, in-depth content on that newsletter every single week. And I really try to bring you the best education that I have generated, interviewing people, putting together strategies and tips. I try to share that for you there. So if you want to check that out, you can go to crowdcrux.com/subscribe. That is crudcrux.com/subscribe. And of course, other episodes out there in the archives of this show are also another great place to start. So I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast episode, but I also want you to think a little bit about this project that you are launching. I want you to think about what the point of it is. What is your goal in launching this project? Not just a funding goal, the amount of money that you're getting, but also what is it really beyond that you're trying to get to? One of the things that I found from this show is that all too often entrepreneurs, you think of raising money, you think of making sales, and that's awesome. Like, we all want freedom in our lifestyle. We all want to be our own boss. We all want lots of cash so we can do fun stuff and go on vacations, etc. But it's really about more than that. It's about the impact that you have on other people. It's about that excitement of waking up in the morning and going to work, knowing that you're actually having a fundamental change in other people's lives. I think that's for me what I'm most passionate about, and also just being able to see the changes, the positive changes that I make in other people's lives. That's what's kept me going for the last 6 years, and it's what continues to make me so enthusiastic about putting out these episodes for you guys. So I urge you to think about that. What is that? The answer to that question for you and for yourself. Without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Birgit, welcome to the podcast. Your crowdfunding campaign has raised over $240,000 for Lomography, a new instant square camera that you guys have come out with. I'll let you tell us a little bit more about it. You're managing this project. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Could you tell me a little bit about the Diana Instant Square camera? Just give the listeners an idea of what this product is like, who it's for, what it does.
Yeah, the Diana Instant Square is probably the most lomographic product that we've had so far. It is basically combining the two worlds that we've been working on, which is the instant film camera world and the Lomo world, as people probably know us, because it combines the classic Diana camera, which is one of our most precious and typical cameras that we've worked with. The original Diana camera came out in the 1960s, and we started to produce it in 2007, so more than 10 years ago. And now we finally are able to have that aesthetic from the Diana, which is very unique and special on instant film.
Awesome.
So this was the main goal of that camera, yeah.
Very cool. You guys, you also came on the show, if anyone wants to listen to it, episode 129, Lomography. You guys raised over $5 million on Kickstarter at that point in time. You're now still killing it with these different campaigns. To ask you a dumb question here, so for someone who's listening and doesn't know what an instant camera is, what is that?
It's basically it is a completely analog film camera, at least the ones that we're working with. But it's those, like, people call it Polaroids because that's like the most common name for it. Photos that come out right away. So you take your analog photo and you get the results right away. It like develops in front of your eyes.
That's really cool. It's one of those things too, where like we think so much about taking cameras, having a really hi-fi camera or using your smartphone. This is sort of taking it back a step, because the thing is, like, when you have a physical actual photo that you can print out, you can do stuff like you can put it on your refrigerator, you can share it with your friends. And now I kind of feel like the camera, like, you just take them and you store them on Dropbox, or you store your photos there. It's kind of like a lost art. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. And we've always tried to keep film photography alive, but with instant photography, it's like this way in between. Like, a lot of times people don't want to wait for their rolls to get developed, because everything is so fast now.
Yeah.
But with instant film, you get it right away, but you also have this like real thing in your hand, this memory in your hand that you can also obviously take a snap off and post it on Instagram, but then also put it on your fridge. You have like, it combines those worlds, I think.
It's more special. How did you actually get involved in this project? So am I correct in saying that you're basically managing this entire project? Like, how did you get involved in this?
I'm not. I'm in charge of the North American market. I do the online marketing for the North American market here. We have a project manager in Vienna in our headquarters in Europe, and a big team working from there on the whole campaign. And I do, the marketing for this specific market. Basically.
And is this your first Kickstarter campaign? Have you worked on ones before with Lomography?
No. In fact, it is my first Kickstarter campaign, which is why I was very excited to do this finally, because Lomography has done a lot of great and successful Kickstarter projects. This is our 9th project, I think. And I was very excited to finally learn that too, and it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah, yeah. So with the marketing of this actual campaign, you have an amazing product, and you're basically your job, I guess, is to go out there and to communicate it and to get attention. What was like your marketing strategy behind launching the project?
So the thing is, Lomography has a really big and active community. We have our online magazine, which is reaching out to our community members on a daily basis, and they're very active on that. So we have this like great platform to communicate with our community. What we did with this one was, we would tease it a little bit. We would tell people that there's something coming, and we would like build a suspense in a way. And then people got really, really curious, and they started to guess what we're coming up with, which is always fun and exciting for people to, wait for that day until we finally reveal the secret camera. But as for communication or marketing in this particular niche that we have, it is pretty easy because we have such a active and loyal community that we communicate with throughout the year anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally. So I think when you talk about teasing it, you talk about like knowing that something's coming. It's kind of like you form a line outside of like an Apple store, basically tons of people just waiting for the product. It's very similar to that, it seems like. How did you do that? Like, were you sharing photos? Were you sharing teaser videos? Were you telling a little bit about the story behind it? Like, how are you teasing it?
We would mostly have photos on social media showing little hints. Pretty early on, people knew it was going to be something with instant because we shared like the square frame of it. People, we wouldn't say what specific camera it's going to be. And yeah, we took the first like sample photos with our prototype, and because this camera has such a unique aesthetics to it, we could actually already share some photos, and people would be like, oh, wow, this is an instant photo, but it looks so different to the regular ones. Like, what is the deal with this? So we would share these little hints and, yeah, mostly photos.
Yeah. And I think it really shows because you had a $100,000 funding goal and you surpassed that in 2 days, I believe.
I think one day, actually.
One day. Sorry about that.
No worries. We're just really proud and excited about that. Yeah, that was great.
So basically you have a lot of people that are leaving their comments. They're piling into the project. You're seeing the funding meter go up and up, which is a really exciting time. Can you tell me a little bit, like, what was it like to experience that? You're getting a flurry of comments on your project, etc.
Yeah, that was very exciting for me. As I said, I've seen all the successful Kickstarter projects that Lomography has done before, and I was obviously nervous that this one's gonna turn out just as great. And I remember when the day we launched it, and I basically woke up in the morning and saw this like flood of comments and pledges coming in, and it was a very exciting moment for me. And also, it was people responding to the product itself. It's not even about the money that they already pledged the first day. It was really about community members reaching out to us and congratulating us and thanking us for making this camera. It was just such an overwhelming feedback, and a big relief, I would say. And that was very exciting for me, and it's great to be in communication with the community throughout the whole campaign, and which is why we love Kickstarters that much, because the product is not completely final. You have all these accessories that you can still add, and you can be in communication with the community and collect feedback and suggestions and everything. And that's just it feels definitely more exciting to work on this camera and on everything around it with the whole feedback from people.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting very live, rapid feedback with people commenting on your projects, and also you did a live stream, right? And to answer all of these people's questions, had like over 400 people attend your live stream.
Yeah, that was another exciting thing that we did just this past weekend. Yeah, we went live for an hour from New York here, and we just like wanted to offer to answer questions to show the first prototype live, because it's always, a little bit difficult if the final product we don't really have to show to people. But we got the prototype that looks very similar to the final version, and we did this live stream, and there were surprisingly a lot of people like streaming the whole thing, and I was surprised about that too, because it's one thing to get a glance at the camera, but to actually be so interested in all the different things that the camera can do was cool to see that people are, so interested to learn about all the different features and everything.
Did you get any pledges during the live stream? Was it mainly people asking you questions about like the functionality?
Yeah, we did get some, I think. I'm not completely sure about the number of pledges during the live stream, but it was, people used it mainly to, ask their questions, and were like, show us this lens again, and what can I do with that? And, they were really engaging in the Q&A thing, which was cool. And
Totally. I think
there's more for that.
Yeah, I think there's this sort of perception that you can just like launch a campaign on Kickstarter. You can even launch a new product, and it's just like a hands-off approach. But it seems very hands-on from what you're telling me in terms of replying to comments, giving access to you, the team, and also the product with live streams. It seems like you have these values at Lomography that you want to be very hands-on with your customers, and you want to sort of be creating this in tandem with them.
Yeah, that's actually one of the main things that we've learned, or that my coworkers have learned throughout all the campaigns, is that the most important thing for both sides actually is to be in constant contact with people. It obviously benefits us if we are able to reply to comments and questions right away, so that people don't leave the website but they're still on the site and get their reply to their question. It benefits us because that makes it more likely that they would actually back it. Mm-hmm. If they had just one question they wanted to make sure to be answered before. But also for us it is so much more helpful, as I said, because the product is not final, to get the feedback during the process. So I do think that for a Kickstarter campaign, this is probably the most important thing, is to be actively updating, actively answering all the time, and being in contact with everybody. We have for this campaign, our customer service team that usually manages all these things is getting help from every one of us. Like, we are all on this page all day and trying to answer all the questions. We do like weekend shifts that are split up now because we want to
That's awesome. Yeah.
Active throughout the whole thing.
Totally. Everyone has a stake in it. Everyone looks like they're wearing multiple hats. Everyone just wants it to be successful. Having done a lot of these different projects before, do you have like a template that you're using for the campaign page layout? Because I'm just looking down, like you have a lot of really neat GIFs and images, and it just looks amazing. It looks beautiful. I urge everyone go and check it out. The Diana Instant Square camera on Kickstarter. Where like, do you have a template that you work off of? Is this like all organic, or how does that work?
I don't think we have a template for that. I do know that we have we have this like inside joke that we won an award for the longest scrolling Kickstarter page. It is really long, but I don't think there is like a template or a rule of how we want to do it. It's just we have a great design team sitting in Vienna who came up with this thing. And I mean, we know we have, because we have so many different pledges and add-ons and accessory packages, it can be kind of overwhelming for someone. So it's very important that you make it clear, structure it in a clear way of what the different packages are. So we try to do that with like graphics, as you can see, and we try to get all this like very detailed and complex information into a very clear way. I think that is the main the main focus with the layout and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love, because you have this section here, how to back the Diana Instant Square, and then just very clearly shows everything that you're getting at each reward tier. And I know me coming, I would probably make something that's really long and difficult to understand, but this looks is very easy to understand. Just going down the different tiers, what you're getting, the amazing discounts that you're getting also when you back it. So I think that's really cool. You guys have that section.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure this is part of what my coworkers have learned from the experience, because we have so many different packages and pledges that it can get super overwhelming if you don't find a way to display it correctly. Yeah.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. So let me ask you a question. If you're on the marketing side of the project, so your goal is basically, how do we get out there? How do we spread the word about this? And you had an instant rush of funding in the beginning from your existing community. What are your thoughts on after that fact, when you have to go out there and you have to either do things like, I don't know, Facebook ads, or you have to go and approach journalists or influencers? Like, what's your plan here for outreach beyond the Lomography community?
It should be a mix of everything a little bit. We do have social media is obviously a big part of it. We do have press releases coming up throughout the campaign. And we also are going to, as soon as we have the first prototypes, we can go more into press work and can send prototypes out for reviews for people to test it, which is something we do not only with press, but also with our Lomo amigos, as we call them, photographers who work with us or who are always up to testing stuff. So we'll try to get as many cameras out there for people to actually try and shoot and test, because we've basically said everything we can say about this camera. In all these texts on the Kickstarter page, we tell people why we think this is a great camera. But now, as soon as we have a first version of the camera, we can collect different opinions and different views on that. And I think, and those we'll try to get out through all the channels, press, but also social media, and
the story of the camera and
whatever else is out there, but just the different subjective impressions of the camera, because the technicalities, the features and everything, it's one thing to mention all those, but then the actual shooting experience and what you like about a photo is so subjective and can differ so much that it's important to collect different opinions on that.
Yeah. And I think also it's important to get your values out there and really who the camera is for. Because it's very different than, I think, someone that's just going and buying a camera down at the store. It's really for a very specific type of consumer. So I guess one of the questions that I had for you here was, what is it that you would say that you're most passionate about when it comes to your job and the work that you've been doing in getting the outreach for this Kickstarter, getting attention to it? What have you been passionate about, or what's been the most rewarding part of the process for you?
The most rewarding part of the process really is when I personally experience someone trying the camera for the first time. I think, and that was not something I expected to be so cool, but whenever I have this prototype with me and I meet with other photographers or anyone really, and I give them the camera and watch them shoot it, and they are so excited about the outcome because it is so unique, the photos that it produces, that really was when I got really, really excited about the camera, or even more excited about it, is when I saw how people love it and how people are so with all the
Enthusiastic, yeah.
and that when I saw this live reaction to the camera was my most rewarding moment, I think.
That's cool. That's cool. I think launching your first campaign, it's always a bit of a headache. It's also always a bit of uncertainty. It's a bit of excitement. There are a lot of emotions sort of thrown in there, but I think there's also, obviously the strategy behind it. So I want to ask you, if you could go back in time to a week before or a few months before launching this project, would you have done anything more or would you have done anything differently to enhance the amount that you've raised? I mean, you've already surpassed your goals. You're already doing really well. But would you have done anything, any advice for the people listening to this show?
Would I have done anything differently? I'm not really. I mean, there are, as with all projects, I think you can always say, oh, maybe I would have started a few things a little bit earlier just because it was, stressful in the end to, I don't know, collect all the sample photos or to have everything ready. It's a lot of times everything was a little bit last minute, but that is just one of the risks you have when you're working with. I mean, we have our headquarters in Vienna, we have our office in Tokyo and Paris and wherever. So working all around the globe together is it's sometimes difficult, especially when you have to meet deadlines. But this is something, it all worked out in the end, in my opinion. There's not really anything that I would say was like a mistake or I would do totally different.
Would you do more of anything at all? Whether that's, teasing the camera maybe beforehand more or doing more outreach or anything more you would have done?
No, I think it was, I don't want to sound arrogant now, but I think it was what we wanted, and we are pretty happy with the start of the campaign. And I don't think anything more now would have mattered. We do want again another press coverage when the actual live launch is going to happen. So we didn't want to go too far out there and to cover too much already, because then people would not probably not feature it again that big
Being
when
more,
the live launches.
choosing when you want to do that. I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount. One of the things I've noticed personally, just lots of the projects that come on my show will do things like Facebook ads to really boost the awareness for their campaign, or they'll use an advertising company to do the Facebook ads. Is that something that you considered, or that something that you do or are not interested in?
We do have a team in Vienna who's doing these kinds of that's also part of the headquarters job, and I think we did some ads in that case, but I'm sure they have a plan that I'm not completely sure what their strategy was regarding that specific topic, but I think we did some, but it is also, as you said, this very specific camera is kind of niche-y. So it is not, we've had cameras in the past where we definitely did more Facebook ads and stuff like that because it was more mainstream. This is very is pretty much directed at the
A
Lomo
niche audience,
community. So yeah, I think that is probably part of the reason why it's not been that big of a topic for us this time.
Okay, well said, well said. So going forward, where can people go and check you out? Do you have any announcements that are going to be coming up related to the project? But primarily, where can people go and learn more about the camera?
Yeah, well, first of all, you should definitely check out the Kickstarter campaign site. We do have in our online magazine, we have a lot of articles already with tipsters and stuff of all the different creative things you can do with the camera, which is very interesting to have a look at. The exciting thing, that is happening right now is still the communication with people on the Kickstarter page, and defining our upcoming stretch goals is, the most exciting part right now, because we are collecting the feedback from the community, from people who maybe haven't backed the camera but are like, oh, but I would like to have a camera strap on this camera before I back it or something, and
Yeah.
and then it might be another stretch goal. We're working on those. And I think, that is the most exciting part of like making this product final now, is with collecting all these ideas and suggestions from people. So definitely do that if you have any crazy ideas what you'd want with this camera. And so the stretch goals are coming up, which are exciting. And we also sometimes add like new pledges. We just added a light painting pledge, which includes like, a light painter and I think the splitzer. Yeah. Cool. You can go
lots of good stuff in the works. It seems like you've learned a tremendous amount from this campaign, particularly on the subject of the integration of the community with the project and the feedback that you've given to people, that other people have given you, the way that you can incorporate that into the products going forward. I just think that's a really powerful validation testing phase. And it's also something where, as you're going forward and you realize people maybe want this thing or want this other thing added into the camera, it allows you to also structure the marketing much better going forward when you are in production fully. So I mean, that's the next big hurdle, is the production. But I want to thank you for coming on the show, because you guys have done great work on Kickstarter. You've launched, what is it now, 9 projects, I think it is, on Kickstarter?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's insane. You've literally built your entire business model around Kickstarter and also cooperation with the community. It's sort of in defining this whole new category, because this whole new category of cameras that are just different from what we expect today. It's more artistic. It's more about being in the moment and also sharing photography with your friends and your family in a way that's different from just like uploading it to Dropbox or something like that. So
that's always been our goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. My last question for you is, if you could talk to the listeners out there and offer a word of encouragement for someone who's thinking of launching a campaign, or a final tip or bit of advice, that would be awesome.
I would say only do it. Don't do it because you think it's a good business idea. That is why it works for us so well, is because everybody who works on this project is really 100% behind it and passionate about it. And then you'll realize what your marketing strategies are. And because then you will know the audience, because you can basically think about yourself. And I think that is personally my advice for a campaign like that.
Make something that you would also be a consumer of, basically. Yeah. Awesome. Well said. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I'll be sure to link up the campaign in the show notes, and we'll have to have you back.
Thank you so much. That was fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation today. This campaign, I think, has done a great job. They've surpassed their goal. They really put community at the forefront of everything that they're doing. They have very good values going into the project. And you'll notice also that they have a different way, I think, of looking at creating a new product. They're creating a new product with their community versus trying to like game the system or something like that and just use their community to make money. money. It's a very different approach, and it's one that's very common that I find with these Kickstarter campaigns that are successful. They have this community first mentality. So Lomography, my other episode with them, 129, if you want to listen to that one's called The Strategy Lomography Used to Raise More Than $5 million on Kickstarter. These guys know what they're doing. They've created and raised over 9 campaigns on Kickstarter. So they have a history of doing this, and they literally built their entire business model around this. So I think that's one of the benefits of listening to this show, is that you clearly get a sense of what's working right now on Kickstarter, and you also get to hear directly from those people that are doing that. There's no other place that you can do that. I work really hard to get you guys good interviews. So if you do like this show, let me know. Leave a comment, leave a rating and review on iTunes, shoot me an email. If nothing else, you want access to more of my free education and my free content, you can go to crowdcrux.com/subscribe, and that will take you to my weekly newsletter called Killer Crowdfunding Tips. All that alliteration, I had to throw that in. Killer Crowdfunding Tips with Sal. So you want to check that out. That is crowdcrux.com/subscribe. Just enter your email address there. You'll start getting emails from me every single week, sharing my best content with you, my best videos, exclusive web classes that I don't mention anywhere else, new training content, new blog posts, all that kind of stuff. You'll get to hear also, a few sentences of the stuff that's happening in my personal life, if I'm doing cool stuff, all that kind of stuff I share with you. So I would love it if you could take a second to do that. And also, again, I would love to hear from you also with the rating and review on iTunes, just so I know whether or not, things that I'm doing with the show that are right and things that I can improve on. I appreciate you. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time here with me, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, and I will see you next time.